All right, so today we're going to talk about the Historian Insight, which is our name of our historian that's in the cloud, and some of its new features that it has. So we'll get right into this. So one of the key things that the historian has done is provide an asset page that it automatically constructs for you. So it takes all the metadata that we send the cloud environment and organizes all our assets into asset pages, and with a hierarchical drill down that we can use to get and focus on different aspects of the plant. So it's not just limited to actually the individual pieces of equipment. It organizes areas and production areas and other things, even plant sites, into various assets, and provides some really useful information on what we can understand about those, and also things we can do. So it's an actionable environment. It's not just an information only environment. So let's get right into it and take a look at that. So as we look at the Insight landing page, this is our little Wonder Brew operation, and it has a news feed off to the right-hand side, and this news feed is what the historian automatically calculates based on the data that's coming in. And it's sort of machine learning for without any effort. In other words, the historian will sit there and provide various built-in algorithms on our data. It even, so for instance, we see here a trend here that has a lower variation than usual. We used to see it in the green normally historically, and now the red is showing that the variation is less. That may be good, that may be bad. It doesn't know, and so it provides us these little thumbs up, thumbs down buttons on the news feed to say, hey, that's a significant thing. I like that discovery, and then it will prioritize those in the future so that we can help it learn on what it's supposed to give us. News feeds can also be now multivariate. It will take basically every tag value that we send to the historian and compare it to every other tag value and find binary systems amongst all those tags. And it automatically does that. And then it will report to us when those binary systems no longer track each other. Like, for instance, you may have temperature and pressure in a boiler. Well, if they don't track, then there's something wrong with what's going on. You may have pump speed and flow rate. Maybe that indicates some kind of other activity that's going on. So we don't have to program this thing to provide these discoveries. It automatically discovers these related systems for us, and then sort of notifies us when these news feeds violate some of these algorithms. And we look at we also have the ability to do process visualization in our dashboards. Dashboards are things that we basically save dashboards with keywords, and then the system will automatically construct all the content together. In this case, everybody was saved with the keyword roaster 11, and therefore all these process tiles were independently saved, and the system will automatically construct these and put these together into a dashboard. And we see down at the bottom, it says, oh, I've actually found some additional content that could match your keywords. And if we click on that, it'll add new content that people have created since that dashboard was last saved, and bring in those in as well. Mapping is also built into Insight, so we can geolocate assets on a map and provide them with things. So as we begin to search for an asset, in this case, we're going to search for a roaster 11 again. We can actually just go to the asset, and this is, instead of looking at a specific tag for the asset or a specific value that we may, or chart or graph, this will basically bring us into the asset. And this is this new edition of this asset page. The asset now can bring in various current visualizations that we've seen. That could be charts, graphs, it could be even a process visualization as we're showing here. The asset organizes this into all our metadata. So here we have all our sections of our plant. We're in the roasting section. We could go to roasting in our New York plant, and So it'll provide an overview just on the whole roasting area itself with all the different components and aggregate up efficiency of all the equipment that's located in roasting. And then we can continue drilling down, and we see we have 2 roasters in here, roaster 11 or roaster 22, and then we can drive to those specific asset pages. Within a specific asset page, we can have process graphics, as we mentioned, we can have charts and graphs. We can also have this asset info tile, and that gives us a description of the asset, where it's located. We can put keywords on our asset to help differentiate it from other things and provide ways of grouping and organizing our assets. We can add a description to it. We can add geolocation if we want, if this asset was geographically located in various places, we can put our geolocation, even elevation in here. We can set the time zone that the asset lives in, so we can understand when we look at data what time zone that represents, and each asset can have their own time zone. Additionally, there's a journal entry for the asset. We can then create log entries and add journal entries. We can simply click the Add Journal Entry button there, and now I can add a journal entry. I give it a title, and I can put a note and a time I want the journal entry to represent. And this becomes a permanent record of log notes and various things, just to keep a track of incidents that may happen or activities that we may want to journal on our asset. And again, that can be done at any level in the hierarchical tree. We can provide things. The newsfeed now is isolated just to that asset. And here it's actually got 21 things that it's discovered about our data, and we can scroll through them. And again, we got the thumbs up, thumbs down button here to give them more information. Looking at different aspects, if we click the down arrow key, it'll give us a textual description of why it discovered this variability and what it was looking at. We can say, yeah, I think that's important. And then it'll now prioritize that discovery in future uses of insight. But this is now filtering that newsfeed based on just our asset. It's looking at also the efficiency of that of those assets, bringing up its overall efficiency, and any associated content that we have here that we've saved for this asset will show up here as a touch point. So here's a case where we saw the reactor was over temperature. We can look at this and see the chart. We see the alarm is haloed on top of the chart line. We can bring in other pieces of data that are part of this chart. Here we've got the set point. You see where somebody made a set point change. Maybe that's the result of our problem. We have an operator making a set point where he shouldn't have. We could put a comment on that, add a comment to our trend, and give a trend here. And now we could put a reason for this over temperature that had occurred. We can also look at who did it. If the user right was occurred, we can then put our comment in here and say, hey, this temperature was set too high. And we can just sort of, who's that visible to? We save it off. Now that's only visible to me. You can also create an alert on this. So we can drag our little alert icon down and add an alert to our asset. We can pick a point on the trend, and it'll basically bring in the data that we had. And now we can create an alert that says, if this value is equal to something or greater than something, so we can make changes to this. It's all English-based, sort of very informative as to what you're actually doing. Come in here and change the set point or a different tag values. One's the set point, one's the process value. And then make that one a greater than or also. We can say that they both have to be true, or just any one of them could be true. And then we can send notifications. This is going to send me an email when that condition happens. I can add other email addresses in here as well. It can also initiate activities, like we could fire off a safety work permit. We could send a maintenance work order into our maintenance system. We've got a work order could go into our Vantis system. We can then further define this by saying, let's categorize this as consequences for failure. So this is a production problem, could be safety problem, could be environmental, and we're allowed to add additional consequences for this thing occurring. And then we give this alert a name, give a description. It's going to describe how the alert is done. And we've saved that off if we wished. We also have the ability just to go directly to all our assets in an asset page. This was added in. And now it'll list all the assets based on the hierarchy. So we see we have like the New York plant. We can drill into that and see this is a summation of things happening within the plant. And then we can use our breadcrumb to drill into the various areas inside that plant, and go to our bottling area, for instance. See the different bottling lines. Look at our little process mimic that's going on here, showing the real-time status of that bottling line. And again, we also have asset actions. We can add an alert. And in this case, we can go in and start just searching for tags that we could have on the alert. We can just pick up all our bottling line tags. For this particular bottling line, we can grab some tags. We can select them all, and then pick things that we want to base our alert off of. We could make production quantity or current shift, any of these values that we wish to have. We'll look at scrap quantities, add that in, and we'll basically want to know if our scrap quantity is ever greater than 100. Let's define an alert. And then we're going to send an email out. We chose to skip, but we could always go back and add them later. Add our production failure. Give this alert the name, save it off, and then that will define this alert. And this alert's going to send us an email whenever our scrap quantity of bottles on bottle line 1 will be over 100. So Insight also adds other capabilities in the latest research. One is we can do now calculated statistics for events. You used to be able to do statistics on a time basis, and now we can do it for events. We've got an ability to declutter your searches. Like a lot of times when you put in a very vague search, you get a lot of information. It's kind of like you would if you put in something into Google that wasn't refined. You can now take stuff out and then add a new search and add more stuff into it. We have the ability to create shifts and define shifts into the cloud environment, so we can analyze things in the relationship to define shifts. And so we look at Insight again. I'll wait for the video to catch up here. We're going to do a search. And this is basically a natural language search. We're going to search for things. We're going to search for our bottle line this time. And it'll find all the bottle lines that we have. So we're going to grab our bottle line. And this is going to grab all 35 values that we have and everything. And it's just going to pick a couple of them and throw them on a status display. We could then add more. Pick our bottle speed and line speed and our set point for targets for bottles and how many things we're going to make. We could then choose to keep things around and or get rid of them and declutter the search. This is the search cleanup mechanism. You just now remove it and get rid of some of those tags. As we can also begin to search for additional information, like let's say that we're going to go look at bottle line 2 and add more information from that into our collection of things that we want. We could go and add that one in as well, and that'll add more stuff from bottle line 2. It gives us a current value and a recent trend based on our time duration that we pick at the bottom of the screen. And now we're also go and add shift patterns. And so shift patterns give us the ability to define a shift. We got, say, a standard production schedule shift, and we're gonna look at that. And that's set 7 days a week, starts at 8 a.m. and goes to 4 and 4 to 12 and 12 to 8, and provides our day and evening shift. And that may be our standard production shift, but we may have other shifts that we need to define. So we could get out of this and go back and just simply take our same shift again and duplicate it. And now we could get rid of, say we need a, was there something? So we need a weekday shift, which is just the same shift, but without the weekends. And so we're just gonna get rid of the Saturdays and Sundays. And then save that guy if we wanted to. Apply a location where it applies to, and an effective start date for that shift. An area. We could even add additional shift names to it if we want, but we're just going to remove that. And we're not trying to, just showing you that it's possible to create these. This would overwrite the existing one, and I don't want it to do that. So we're just going to cancel this. But it shows you how we can add shift definitions to our cloud solution. Go back to our home screen. And we can also now look at equipment efficiency. So Insight allows us to define efficiency and automatically link that to tags, or we can manually drive it from this user interface. And so all our assets are provided with this capability of looking at their efficiency. So here we're looking at the OEE events, the utilization events that have occurred, uptime, downtime, reasons why they're running. This could all been categorized by tags, but we may want to look at it later and say, you know, even though the tags kind of did this, that little duration there was really too short. We didn't actually run during that time. So let's merge these two together. And so we can say merge that right, and then give a reason for that merge, add a comment to it. And you're able to fix automatic categorization, because this was a false start of the machine and it really didn't occur. We just kind of turned it on and realized we weren't ready to run, and we wanted to merge that up again. We can also take something that maybe didn't catch something and split it to find different reasons for, maybe we were going to set this time and we're going to change its duration. We can change the point of splitting. And maybe we were just running slow at that point. So we want to have that categorized a little differently than the way it was before. The system will also allow us to set up a target quantity for our production, it'll add in what our rate is and how long this thing will take to actually run. We can see our progress to date on that and what our actual production rate is compared to plan. We can add in waste numbers here for production waste. And we could look at this under the active run, or we could look at it based on the shifts that we define and see how a shift is currently comparing to the production quantities that we want to produce. OE is available here for availability and efficiency. We can see all our uptime, downtime reasons, Paretoed and categorized. And we can add all additional metadata that we wish to collect as we operate these things. In this case, we're looking at crew name, product code, shift name, work order ID. We can add additional property values that we wish to collect and save during the execution of production runs. And these assets are available for this screens are available for all the assets that we have. And we can change the time horizon that we wish to look at these KPIs and switch between assets. We could change the time horizon, look at the last 4 hours, look at the last 12 hours, or we can look at the shift. And see the utilization events for that particular. All the content we create is all directly accessible from this little content drop down. So we're going to go into our little Roaster 11 dashboard again, and we're going to take a look at our process curves here. And this is going to give us, if we drill into this, we're going to take us directly into that tile, show us all our 4 process values that we have. And typically, this has always been done. We can see our limits. We can see lots of information on here, but this is all organized on time. And it's a trend based on time. We can stack the axes. We can do all kinds of comparative things that we wish. And see different ways of organizing this. We can add comments, we can change its settings, we can put limit lines, we can show different comparative lines on here if we wish to have something to more visualize and make this more informative to us. But we can also come in here and add more data to the trend. In other words, we can add in things that aren't numerical, and we can add in stuff that's more stateful, such as product code and material that we're making and work product ID and whether the machine was running or not. And then we can take a look at that, and now we can provide, here in the trend we see that, but we can also provide statistics based on these events. So here's statistics just showing the average per day. We could change that to every 15 minutes and see the average every 15 minutes. We could change that to an hourly and see the average every 15 minutes over the last hour. We could then add in an hourly rate, look at that over today, and see all the different behaviors of these tags over an hour. We have different statistics we can pick, but now we can also pick an event. So in this case, we're going to pick an event, and now we could say, let's look at this data based on the current shift. So we had a night shift and day shift currently today. You can see if there's any variation between the operation of our equipment from shift to shift. We could look at it over the last 3 days. We could look at it just yesterday and see that we see if there's any variability between the way operators run things on a shift by shift basis. We can also change any of our stateful values that we wish to have. And the state values are basically, can be a string, can be a Boolean, can be an integer that defines the state. So here's where we make different products. Let's look at that over just today and see as we make different products, how do our tags behave? We can look at the minimum over those product runs. We can look at the maximum over those product runs. We can look at the last value that we occurred before we completed the run. Total is a integral of that signal over the time period that we had. We can pick any of the tag metrics that we have. Production ID, we want to look at it from our production ID perspective and drill down and get very granular information on how our system was performing during other metadata transitions that are occurring. You can remove tags. You could add additional tags. To the analysis. And we have the ability to put in limit lines and other things on our chart. And that's some of the fun new features that exist in the Historian Insight Cloud.